Hey, good evening, and welcome to the Uptown Parlay Podcast. Now, your host, Ace.
You know what? I have another question for you then. How did you learn that people bet on sports? Because I can tell you how I learned.
I learned that people bet on sports. So this is it was in the South. I learned that people bet on sports when what do you call it? The grids, the papers,
Yeah,
the boxes. That's how I learned that people
the box score. Okay.
Yeah. But that
I was
literally
in
only for so every week, every Saints game, because like I said, I was spending my summers in New Orleans, and so every Saints game there was a paper, and the guy would bring the paper around, and like my grandmother would give me $10, like $20 or whatever, and be like, and then tell me to write her name in 4 boxes. And then I just write her name in the boxes and then give it to the guy. And then he'd go to the next house. And then he'd do that all until all of the papers were filled up. And I never knew where it went. Like, I just knew, like, whatever. Like, I never knew. Like, she'd get her little copy of it, and that'd be it. You never knew where it went. She'd never watch the game either. She wouldn't be like, come on, let's watch the game and see if I won. She would just check on Monday to see if she won. If they won, and the dude would come around, and he'd give everybody their money. And that's how you knew, and I don't even think in my mind I rationalized that was sports betting. I just thought that was just some shit my grandmother did. Like, that was it. Like, but yeah, and then like the number holes. Then that's a New York thing too,
yes.
Right? The number holes.
Yes.
You go to the number hole, and like I remember. And I'm my dad. Hopefully, my dad never listens to this. I remember my dad brought me to the number hole, and you stand outside you be outside with your toys, or you be outside with your Game Boy, depending on what time of the year it was, like when it was. And I'll be standing outside, or I'll be sitting in the car. And my dad go in the number hole, and he'll go put his numbers in, and then he might put some money on a horse, or he might put some money on a game, and that was it. So. In Harlem, that was how I got introduced to sports betting.
Okay. Levon?
I don't have a story, man. Nothing like that. My dad did not gamble. If he did, he didn't bring me along. My uncle didn't gamble at all. My mom damn sure didn't gamble. The only introduction in the betting I got was when I bet that I could beat somebody in a game, or bet that the Knicks would beat somebody. But nah, I didn't know anything about sports betting.
I found out about it. Go ahead. I found out about it because my aunt was doing an office football pool, so they were doing their picks. And I'm in the 5th grade, and she's asking me, who do you think's going to win? I'm like, what are you talking about? What is this for? And she showed me the piece of paper with the point spread, and I was like, what are the points for? Like, well, that's how many points they got to win by. I said, 10 points? I don't think the Cowboys are going to beat them by 10 points. That's a lot of points. I mean, I know they're bad, but they're not that bad. And then I'm watching the game, I'm like, they beat the hell out of it. They beat them by like 3 or 4 touchdowns. And I don't remember the other team, but I just remember the Cowboys were supposed to blow somebody out. I'm like, this is 91. And I think that was their first run. But they think they didn't win that year. They won in 92, right?
92.
92, and then 94, 95. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I forgot who they lost to in the NFC title game. But, like, they made a run there, and then they lost to somebody. I think it was Washington.
Wait a minute.
They won in 92 because
like,
the Giants won in 91. They won in 92, 93, and 93.
Yeah, 92, 93.
No. I mean fall of 91. The fall of 1991.
Yeah. That was them. On 92, 93. They lost, and they came back to 95.
I was just helping her make picks, and that's when I realized people bet on sports.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's crazy. You can make money doing it.
Point spreads for me, when we were in high school, is when I learned about point spreads, because there was the Daily News every Friday. The Daily News, I don't know who the columnist was, but he would do every game. He would talk about every single game, and it was like a 2-page pullout in the sports section that you could go, and he would go through every game, and he would give his prediction, and at the bottom it would say like Giants and the under. Or it would say, Jets in the over, or, Cowboys in the under, or whatever. And he would, so I would read that, and then I would look at the number up top, and I'm like, what the hell is the under? Why do they keep saying the under? What the hell is that number in the parentheses? Because I never knew, I just knew Giants was playing the Cowboys, and that's it. And then you look at the paper, and they'd be like, Giants -5 versus Cowboys. And I'm like, what the hell is that 5 number? What is this about?
You know,
and over the years, I read it, and that's how I got it.
The interesting thing about gambling and why I don't do it, because I'm big into psychology. I mean, I went to school for it a little bit, learned a little something about it. I'm the whole thing about betting and gambling, it's a psychological thing. It's not rational. I mean, imagine if the same philosophy with gambling we applied to our jobs. And it's like I go to work and I do my job the same every day, but there's a chance that I might not get paid for that day. And that chance can't be quantified or measured because it can't. And
But then it's not a job if you're not going to get paid.
No, but this is what I'm saying with gambling. I'm trying to draw a comparison how gambling to me is just not logical at all, while people engage in it and think it's got some rhyme or reason, which is how, like, Ace, you do a good job. You know things about gambling, the way you talk about it, the spreads, and you get a lot of it right. But it's kind of like the game from yesterday. It's like you take sports and you figure you take two teams, one is better, right? Because they just are. They have better players.
Yeah.
They should win. They should win. But you never know. And sometimes they do lose.
Oh, yeah. It's random. It's wild.
Yeah, it's random. Yes. And that's why we love sports. That's why we watch. But people gamble on it. And to me, it's like you gambling on something that can't be predicted. And you're hoping that your prediction is right so you can make money. So the reward in itself is not the winning of the money. The reward is the thrill of the unknown. And the juice you get out of something that's so unpredictable that, yeah, I mean, to me, doesn't that seem illogical to you?
But that's gambling on anything. That's going to Vegas and putting your money in a slot machine too, or
exactly.
There's any form of gambling takes the same thing. I think the thing about sports betting and sports gambling that makes it even more thrilling to some degree is twofold. One, like what you're saying about being a fan of the team, you can put money behind your, like you say, put your money where your mouth is. You believe in your team, you believe that they can do this thing, then put something on it. Let it, so it's that conceptually. You believe that this team is going to win, and thus you believe it so emphatically that you are willing to risk money in a wager that's going to occur. So I think that's one part of it. And then the other part of it that I think, really, really intrigues people about the betting is the fact that, like, scoring in these sports can be that's the thing that you can't predict. Like, it's the excitement of, I've got $20 on, it's the multiples and the excitement. I've got $20. I put $20 down. That says that I'm watching the Rockets and the Grizzlies right now. I put $20 down saying that the Rockets are going to beat the Grizzlies by 10 points, right? And if I get that right, that 20 becomes 250, right? So now, as I'm watching this game, and right now Houston's up by 8. If it's still 8 points by the end, like I'm on the seat of my pants
for every basket.
For every basket that comes, because every basket that comes is the difference between me losing $20 or me winning 250. So it's that other part of it that drives you too, because now it's two teams that I have zero, fan interest in. But there's money tied to this now.
So I
can win, even if it's like a shot in the dark. But yeah, and that was the last part I say about it. Because of sports media, because of radio, because of all of the different avenues, even before like the advent of the internet and YouTube and all of that stuff. But because of all of those things, people feel like they know sports better than they know poker, or better than they know blackjack, right? So you feel like, Ja Morant is a great player, and he's going to be able to, score 35 points this tonight because the guy he's playing against on the other side is a bum, So you almost feel like you have an advantage, and you don't. That's the people to realize you don't really have an advantage of shit, because John Morant can twist his ankle in the first quarter and be done for the game. You have no clue. But to some degree, people feel like they have some level of an advantage because they know the sport. They know the game. They know the players. They know the teams. So there's that other side of it too, feeling like it's an educated bet. And it's really not, but they do it nonetheless. So people listen to us when we talk about bets, when we talk about betting on a game, because they already have a preconceived idea about who's going to win the Super Bowl. They already know, hey, I think Philadelphia is going to win it. I think Kansas City is going to win it. And then they hear Ace say Kansas City is going to win it or Philadelphia is going to win it. And they know
because of this, and this.
And right, because of these three things. So like it's like the confirmation bias, right?
Yeah.
I think they're going to win because of this, this, and this. And this guy that I listen to who has gotten 65% of his picks right over the course of the season also agrees with that. So now it's him and I agreeing together, which then turns into I put $200 on it. When I lose, now I'm coming at Ace on the internet because he was wrong. Now it's his fault. So it's all of that like
on the first year we did this, and was like, nah, the Bengals is going to win. And I'm like, are you sure? Because that half a point is all the difference in the world. Yeah. He's like, I don't need it. I was like, okay. I said, I'm taking the Rams. I'm taking that 3.5 points. And they won.
So, yeah, I think all of that feeds into it. Yeah.
That was perfect.
Yeah. I think all of that feeds into it. And when you do get it right, I will say that. When you do get it right, it feels fucking amazing. it's so great to like lay in bed after you hit a 3-game parlay and you're just like, that feels good. Like,
yeah,
it's euphoric. You want to do it again. So
I know what I'm doing. I know sports. I've been watching this for 25 years. I know who's going to win that. Glad I did that. That was a great decision. And then when you put like $10 on the Knicks, and somehow, how did y'all lose to the goddamn Kings? How did you lose to a team that is below 500 who just fired their coach, and you go in there and lay an egg? Like, what's going on here? And you're like, come on. Yeah. But that's why I suggest to people, don't bet on college sports, because you're talking about children still. Not literal children, but like, these people are 20 years old. Like, who knows? But like, I'm not saying they're throwing the game, but like, they're very inconsistent. That's why they're in college. If they were in the NBA, they'd be much more consistent players. The averages would be much more spaced out. You could do some more math on that, figure out, yeah, he's probably not gonna go off for a 50-point game today. But in college, NCAA tournament, that randomly happens. Which is why I think people really, they like to gamble on that. They like that one because it feels more random. Because you can see VCU beating UNC to go to the Final Four, and you're like, that's amazing. I'm glad I picked them on my sheet. And you hope you get lucky. All right. Speaking of that, and back to basketball, NBA trade deadline. A lot of people are saying the Knicks are going to try to make a move to get another wing bench player to replace your boy, the Big Ragu, who they lost Levon. Do you think that makes sense for the Knicks to trade another one of their first-round picks to do
that? Is this Malik or me?
No, this is you. I said Levon.
I don't have any knowledge other than what I hear from people who are actually dialed into this type of thing. But I think the Knicks have what they need. What they need is not what everybody is. Well, a few people are talking about it. They don't need necessarily another wing person. The Knicks' problem, from what I can gather in watching them play, is that they are lacking rim protection. If you watched the game last night, they lost that lead. The beginning when they started to lose that lead is when Denver just started getting to the paint on them and getting whatever they wanted. They were getting to the paint, getting easy twos. Westbrook was going straight to the hole. Westbrook couldn't be stopped from going past Josh Hart and anybody he wanted to get to the basket. So the Knicks need rim protection first and foremost. Karl-Anthony Towns, that's not his game. If they get Mitchell Robinson back, and Mitchell Robinson ramps up and gets back to his normal self for the playoffs, the Knicks have enough to be in the mix for the championship, which they already are. But if they get Mitch back and they can legitimately protect the paint, and
they can beat the Celtics and they can beat the Cavs, and
they will manhandle the Cavs with Mitchell Robinson back in the mix. They'll manhandle the Cavs. I have no doubt. The Cavs only beat the Knicks that one time because Mobley and Allen and that athleticism was too much to overcome, and they got out-rebounded and they lost. But with Mitch back and him outplaying those two guys about 2 years ago by himself, I have no doubt. But I wouldn't trade anybody except Jericho Sims for a wing player if that presented itself. If somebody wanted to give the Knicks a bona fide defensive stopper at the wing position for Jericho Sims, and maybe, what do they have left? I think they have a Washington
first and a bunch of second round picks. Yeah,
they got
that's the pick they're talking about them trading.
Yeah, they got like a pick that won't convey to a first round pick. It's going to turn into like 2 second round picks. I think it belongs to Washington. So Jericho Sims, but I wouldn't touch anybody else. Maybe Landry Shamet, if that's even possible.
That's who they're thinking about moving, because he's a role player, but he makes a good amount of money, and now you have to make all the salaries.
Exactly.
Which is the only reason why it's harder to trade star players, which is why Jimmy Butler can't get moved.
Yeah. But I wouldn't mess with it.
They're capped out.
I wouldn't mess with what they got. I like what they got. I think they should hope Mitch comes back and can offer them exactly that, and hope Cat's thumb gets better, because he's got to be able to shoot, or otherwise he's one dimensional.
He can shoot.
He's not shooting his best. He can shoot, but right now, if you watch his three,
it's not as good as it used to be.
Yeah, it looks clunky, and he's missing it more than he was making it in the past. But yeah.
All right, Malik. NBA trade deadline. What do you got? What do you think?
Cat is, well, I'll just to kind of piggyback on what you guys say. I think Cat is still a threat, and he's always a threat. And as long as he's out there on the floor, I think teams will be, they're forced to respect it, which is why it's still, even though he's not hitting at the same degree or at the same percentage that he was earlier on in the season and earlier on in his career, it's why people are still out there at least respecting it to some degree. I too agree. I think I don't disagree with anything that Levon mentioned about the Knicks, where they need to go, or where they're going, or where they need to go. But I think from a general standpoint, a team in the Knicks position making a trade at this point needs to be the final piece in a championship roster, meaning you see yourself as being at the point where you can beat any team, and you need that one thing, that one piece, that one part, that one component to get you over the top. It's got to be Boston trading for Kristaps Porzingis. It's got to be, Dallas trading for Kyrie when they believe that Kyrie is the missing piece to put alongside with Luka to bring them to the championship round. It's got to be that kind of move and that kind of deal. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense, because you do believe, if you're a Knicks, if you're in the Knicks front office, or even if you're just a Knicks fan, with the core of this team being locked into their contracts for at least the next 3 seasons, and them all being under the age of 30, the expectation is that this Knicks team should be in the mix for championship contention for at least the next 3 years, and with some good contract negotiations and stuff. Good contracts, a couple of good draft selections and things of that sort, they can extend that out for another, couple of years after that. So you're talking 5-6 years, or so on and so forth, until they have to, really figure out where they're going with this. What's up, little man? So any trade that they would make today would have to be a trade that they genuinely see as being the thing that takes them over the top, that vaults them beyond Cleveland, vaults them beyond Boston, and puts them in that conversation of, if we do what we're supposed to do, we should be in the finals. Right now, I think that the Knicks, their projections by far is, if this team makes it to the Eastern Conference Finals and loses in 7 games, it'll be disappointing, but it wouldn't be seen as a disgrace, or especially if they lose to one of those teams like, the Celtics or whatever. It would be seen as a bit of a step forward for a team that's, lost in the second round the past 2 years, and a step in the right direction. And so if you're going to make a trade, it's going to be the trade that sets that expectation to be finals or bust. Overall, with respect to the trade deadline, it feels like there's going to be a significant amount of movement, but it feels like teams are still trying to figure out how to operate under this luxury tax, second apron, first apron situation, and looking at their own contract situations and saying, is it better to just kind of stand pat, let some of these contracts expire, let some of the, let some of these deals kind of, taper out until the new TV deal comes in, and then we can start playing a little bit more with the money that we have on our books. And so to me, I think this trade deadline may have a lot of moves, but they're going to be under the radar, under the, under the board type moves. And if there are any major moves that are going to happen, it's going to be because the situations on those teams, warrants that needs to happen, i.e. Jimmy Butler, De'Aaron Fox, et cetera, where either there's like,
I don't think Fox goes anywhere until the summer.
Well, yeah, either there's like a known issue with like coach, player, organization, player, or something along those lines, or it's just a shift of, this is now Domantas Sabonis' team, and De'Aaron Fox, you've got to go, right? Because we run everything through him, and it's a better fit. So that's where I see the trade deadline going basically this year.
I will say this: I've been watching a lot more NBA the past couple of weeks. There really isn't a team in the West that I think can actually beat the best teams in the East. And I know that sounds crazy to say, but the Warriors appear to be cooked. The best team in the West by record is what?
Thunder.
They're struggling, huh?
Thunder.
The Thunder. I don't think the Thunder match up well with the Knicks. I don't think they don't match up well at all with the Celtics. Chet's still hurt. I don't see Hartenstein being effective against Porzingis. And after seeing the Thunder lose yesterday, I really see I see where their weaknesses are, and teams in the East can exploit those much better.
They're a small team. The Thunder are a small team. And the Knicks exploited that in about 3/4 of basketball, more or less, in that first game, and then fell apart towards the end.
They gave it away in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah,
but a lot
they
of
fell apart towards the end. But OKC is well put together. They play good defense, and they're efficient.
Yeah.
And then, but they're pretty small, especially without Chet. So that's
and they don't shoot the three well as a team.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
They are small, but they do have length, and they have perimeter. They have good perimeter defense.
Yeah. Dorton.
And then they have obviously the MVP of the league. Mm-hmm. They are heavily Shea centric, and if he doesn't,
you think Shea's the MVP of the league
right now? Yes.
I believe right now he is over Joker, and it's not because I think Joker's having Joker's having an amazing season. I know, but I think there's a little bit of fatigue there with the Joker side of it, with him winning the last 4, and also it's best player, best team type of situation.
Exactly.
OKC's been the best player, best team for pretty much the entire season.
So Brunson can't win it?
No.
I'm not saying he can't win it. New York,
Levon,
New York favor. I think that in order for Brunson to genuinely win it
already head to head, he can't.
That's what I was just about to say, Levon. I think in order for Brunson or somebody like Brunson to win it, you need a fall off to some degree from OKC, like an injury, or that like coupled with an injury, like Shea just not playing, or he goes through a bad stretch and the team starts to falter.
Yeah.
With
you have to fall off
with a big uptick in Jalen Brunson's Jalen Brunson has to become the playoff version of Jalen Brunson, which I don't necessarily care to see.
For the last 3 months from February to April.
Yeah, I prefer Jalen Brunson be this 25-8 point guard for the remainder of the season. I like how you make it sound
like 25-8 is like low average.
He's pretty much right there right now.
But I'm saying, like, I prefer to see where he is right now, 25-8, the assists and everything like that, the well-roundedness, all of that stuff. I would much rather see him be this now. And if he's got to go score 45 in the playoffs, go do that there. I don't want Jalen Brunson to like go all out to try to win the MVP and burn himself out and get to the end of the game, and he can't give you that same productivity, over the course of the season. So I'm okay with Jalen Brunson not winning the MVP this year if it means that he's fresh and he's ready to go and he's got that in the bag ready for him for the playoff run, because we'll need that in the playoffs. But yeah, I think OKC is just a really good team. They're just a really good team. They don't have any holes. They don't have any holes. They don't have any weaknesses.
Is there any team in the West that can beat them? That's going to go to the finals.
In the West, when you said the Warriors were cooked, I don't believe that. I think any team is dangerous when the playoffs start. Warriors proved that.
They're not even in the play-in yet. They're a spot out of the play-in.
I know. Maybe we'll talk about who we think, because I don't think every team that's out of it is going to stay out of it, i.e. Philadelphia. But, Philadelphia is super dangerous. Nobody wants to see Philadelphia in round one. I don't care who you are. I don't care how many games Embiid has missed in the regular season. You do not want to play Tyrese Maxey and the Sixers in round one.
If Embiid is healthy. Yeah.
The baby agrees with me.
If Embiid is
Only
healthy.
if Embiid is healthy. But if it's just him and Paul George, I think Cleveland will be like, yeah, okay, we'll take that.
Even if it's Maxey and George with Oubre and no scrappers, and Nick Nurse knows how to coach playoff basketball, he's won a championship, nobody wants to play Philly in round one. That's not a round one matchup you want.
I think if you're the Cavs, because of the way that the Cavs, Celtics, Knicks, and Bucks are built, I think if you are playing a 76ers team that doesn't have that presence in the middle, you can feel pretty confident in your ability to win a series. It's not going to be an easy series, and you might get hit in the head with a 50 burger from Maxey, one of these guys. But I think you feel confident that over the course of a series, you'll be able to wear a team down that doesn't have an inside presence.
But that's a caveat. Embiid is not hurt. He's resting. We know.
Are we sure? Because he hasn't played a lot of games this year. I think he's legitimately.
They put him on the injury list? I just heard he's resting. I didn't hear he was actually injured and gonna have surgery. What is
they keep avoiding putting him on the injury list, but their explanation for him missing these games is like, hey, he came out and practiced. He was questionable. Swelling returned. He said he's not feeling well, so he's gonna sit. Right, so
he's trying to avoid having surgery on his knee, but he needs surgery on his knee. Basically,
they're playing. I think they're playing with the narrative of like officially calling it an injury by saying he's got knee swell. I think it's similar to the Kawhi Leonard stuff, right? Like where we see what Kawhi Leonard is right now, where it's like he's going to have knee problems for the entirety of his career. He might not be injured, but there's going to be a lot of nights where we're not going to be able to play him. And we're going to have to say knee swelling or something along the lines of that, where he's going to be marked as potentially playing or questionable or something like that. And then we'll just pull him out of the lineup, at the last minute because of that reason,
In the West, to answer Ace, I would say the teams that are not in the play-in, sorry, buddy. that are not in the play-in currently out west that you would not want to see in a first-round series are the Spurs and the Warriors. I don't think, especially if you are OKC, and we just said how they are small, you don't want to see Wemby in the playoffs in the first round with Chris Paul and Sohan and the scrappy Spurs if you can avoid it. You don't want to play that kind of team. So anybody can lose.
That's where De'Aaron Fox wants to go.
That would be.
And I was about to say, if he goes there,
that would change their fortunes. And
that would change. They're not. To me, they're not a play-in team anymore.
They need. If that's the case, they need to trade anybody possible to make that happen. Like today.
Really?
But De'Aaron Fox, if they could keep Wemby, which they will, and the Sohan kid, who he's a scrapper. I like gritty players. Chris Paul, because no one wants Chris Paul. That's just ridiculous. But if you can get him on that team and keep a lot of their it's a young, scrappy team. I watched them play the Knicks and give the Knicks problems until like the very end. And a lot of other teams too. Yeah, that puts them in the mix already. It really does.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, also, I would even throw into your logic as well, Levon. Right now, the Suns and the Mavericks are 8 and 9.
Yeah, I see
and not for nothing, I don't think I want to play Kevin Durant in the first round of playoffs.
No, absolutely.
I don't think I want to play Kevin Durant, Devin Booker in the first round of the playoffs.
Absolutely not.
I'm good on that.
That team is constructed. I don't see how they win, and they don't like their coach and the bench players. Like nobody knows what their role is except for like three guys.
It's not.
Basketball
is so much different than other sports in the sense that for 4 games, if you're telling me that I've got to go again, if I'm the Rockets at 2 seed and I got to go up against Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, I may feel comfortable and confident that I can devise a game plan that will make it difficult for them. But I can't say with complete confidence that they can't get 4 games out of those dudes and make my life hell.
Exactly.
And take me to a 7-game series, which you just don't want to play in the first round of playoffs.
First round, make it super tough on you.
Yeah.
I got
or a healthy Luka and Kyrie. I'm not trying to play them dudes in the first round of playoffs.
Yeah.
You know?
What seed were they last year?
The Mavs.
Cool.
Yeah, like
the Mavs were 4 or 3.
Yeah, like 3 or 4. Yeah, they were up there
because they beat OKC in the second round.
Yeah,
because who did Minnesota knock off? Minnesota knocked off.
Minnesota knocked off Denver.
That was built. That was built to be able.
It was OKC 1, Minnesota 2, Dallas was 3.
Oh. Dallas
was 3 or 4. Yeah, they had to.
Yeah,
because they were playing the number 1 seed. Because they were 4 because they knocked off OKC in the second round. Yeah.
Yeah, in Minnesota in the last one.
Yeah, Minnesota was a 2-3.
Minnesota was 2 because OKC won that by 1 game over the T-Wolves last year for the best record.
Mm-hmm.
T-Wolves is another team. I don't know what's going on. I think it's Julius Randle effect. They need to get him out of this. They get back rolling again, or maybe can't let that much come. I don't know, man. But you can't go from. I mean, they were hot in the West last year, best defense in the league. 2 seed, and now what are they right now?
7.
7.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be hot if I was a T-Wolves fan right now. I'd be hot.
Yeah, it's not working. Is what it is.
Nah, it's not working, man.
You can't quantify. You can now. I'm sorry. You probably didn't before, but you can now quantify the value of in today's NBA of a big that can stretch the floor consistently.
If we're going to take 43s a game, and I got a guy who shoots 38%, it's always worth a lot.
A big that can stretch the floor consistently and shoot it at a good percentage over one that can make a 3, but can also go ice cold and shoot like horribly from 3s and take a bunch of bad shots.
And both rebound are up the same.
Yeah, even if Cat's not shooting well, you still have to defend Cat at the 3-point line. There's full nights where you don't have to. Yeah, and there's full nights where with Julius Randle, you know when he's on, you know when he's off. And if he's off, you ain't got to defend a damn thing. You can flow back on him. And he's going to shoot it. And he's going to keep shooting it too. I think that's what we're seeing to me is like this team is really, they're really feeling the pain of that. And probably what they thought was they would offset that with the play of DiVincenzo and his shooting.
Number 5.
And and it hasn't happened. Well, I mean, Ant's been great. Edwards has been fantastic.
It's not that. They thought that Ant Edwards could elevate. They figured that
Edwards is taking too many threes a game.
Yeah, he's making too many threes.
It seems crazy.
They thought he could elevate Randall's game, because he was that next level superstar incumbent. But he's good, but he's not that. He's not that. He's not a long.
He doesn't make his teammates better.
Nah, he doesn't do that. He's not like a Steph.
Cat actually does.
Yeah, Cat does. Jalen Brunson does. Steph,
Tatum does.
LeBron James,
No,
yeah,
Tatum.
But that's what I'm. But that's kind of what I mean.
The kid in Tatum, Jason Tatum does, and the kid that's down in Orlando. I can't remember. Paolo Banchero, the one who got hurt.
Or to say if that's true or not. I haven't seen enough of him to know. I don't know about Jason Tatum making people better. Did I lose you guys?
Yeah. No, we're here. I hear you. Tatum does. I see enough of these Celtics games being up here in New England, living in Massachusetts, knowing, seeing them, and he does. He affects the rest of the team because when he's shooting well, he stretches the rest of the defense, and he's their 4-man, so he's bringing the bigger guy out to him, which opens up the floor for everybody else to drive.
I don't think he's the impact. I think that team is just extremely good and extremely talented. And I've always said this about Jason Tatum. I think he is the most talented, uninspiring player that I know in the league.
Jason Tatum, look,
wow.
I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's bad. What I'm saying
he's really good, but you just don't care about him playing.
What I'm saying is
he's not going to carry the team.
When that team got Drew Holiday, I said,
yes.
I said,
yes.
That's a problem.
Yes.
Look, right? When you gave that good of a team. I feel about Jason Tatum the same way I felt about Paul Pierce. Before Paul Pierce got Kevin Garnett and Rondo and Allen. You took a great player, a really, really good scoring player that can do a lot, and you gave him all of these pieces, and now they're a champion, right? It doesn't necessarily elevate that player. When they got Drew Holiday, I said, "Uh-oh."
that was the right move.
I got you.
That is a well-constructed team. They have so many pieces on that team that are interchangeable. 3 in particular: Porzingis, Holiday, and White. When you can sit there,
they can't lose Porzingis.
Huh?
They can't lose Porzingis again. Like if he gets hurt again,
because they're
not winning another title.
Yeah, you got the stretch big who can go out there and shoot threes. Then you got a point guard, and I was trying to make air quotes, who can guard 4s because he's that good defensively, that sound, that sturdy. He can guard certain 4s, Julius Randle, and take them out. And then you got another guy who can guard 3s and 4s, and Derek White, and stretch them out, and all of them can shoot 3-point points. Mm-hmm. And Derek White runs can be the point for them and initiate offense. They got so many guys. They got 4 guys who can initiate the offense on the floor, and the only one who can't is Porzingis. All of the rest of them can bring that ball up and initiate offense. That team is uniquely configured. They did a good job. But to say that Tatum, there's a lot of players in the league that have Tatum beat when it comes to clutch minutes, clutch points, efficiency. He takes way too many bailout threes for me. Way too many sidestep, backup 3-pointers. I don't know if they're telling him to do that, but I'm not impressed by Jason Tatum. And I'm not a hater. I'm just not impressed by him. I'm just not. I give credit where credit is due. I do it reluctantly sometimes, but I will. No, Tatum.
he's the best player on a good team, but that team is so good that it doesn't really resonate.
Good team. They won the championship last year. Y'all make it seem like
they're not great. I hedge against calling teams great until they've done it multiple times. But he's the best player on that team. He's probably the most talented player on that team.
True.
But that team needs all of its pieces. He's not carrying that team if any of those pieces are not there. He's not carrying that team to a championship if any of those pieces don't exist. They have, built that roster in a way where all of those pieces are absolutely necessary. And if you took any one of those off and told Jason Tatum, you've got to score 40 for the next 3 games for us to win, to Levon's point, I think you see a guy that presses. I think you see a guy that throws up some bad shots. Mm-hmm. He, doesn't make great decisions. He's not a great passer of the basketball, facilitation wise. He can get an assist here and there, but he's not like that type of guy. And yeah, it's why literally every year we go into the season and people say, is Jason Tatum going to be the MVP at the beginning of the year? And by the midway point, he's like 9th.
And he should be, because look at his measurables.
He's talented enough to do it.
He's got that 3-and-D frame, and he's got the speed. He can shoot threes. He can drive. But Malik's right. I mean, how many? He's never been really even, I don't know, maybe he has been in the voting, but I've never really thought he was ever an MVP candidate at any point.
Yeah, he's never been a threat. Maybe last year, there was times last year where people had him in like the top 3.
Possibly, yeah.
But no,
No, just a well-constructed, all-around good team. Tatum, respect to his game, but I worry about what they do to us as a team. I'm more worried when we play them to not believe it or not, I'm worried about Derek White killing the Knicks. Leaking out and hitting those corner threes.
So you're worried about him and Pritchard?
Yeah. I worry about the ancillary pieces of Boston hurting us more than I worry about Jaylen Brown and Tatum going off. Every time
because you expect them to get their 20, 25, but you just don't want anybody else to get going.
That's not even that. I think they get their... It's hard to explain. I mean, if they could get their 20, 25, I don't want that either. But I think Boston kills you more when those other pieces go off. When those other pieces go off, that's what hurts you. Like I said, I'm worried about Drew Holiday being able to guard, Cat and push him out to the 3-point line.
That would be a miracle.
Cat's... That's not a miracle. He's done it. He's pushed guys out to the 3-point line.
He is not guarding Karl Anthony Towns.
Okay, we're going to find out later.
That would not be a smart thing for them to do. That would not be a wise decision.
They'll switch on those.
They'll switch at some point. Drew is smart, man. He's smart. He knows how to position himself. It's possible he can get Cat pushed out that far. I hope not, but it's possible. If he does, he's not driving by him. I know that. He's not driving by Drew Holiday. Not like he was doing
He's not going to get by him.
Who was he driving by the other day? Somebody.
You're going to finish this with some picks. Malik, you wanted to get in and say something.
Say it again? I didn't hear you.
You wanted to get in and say something?
Oh, no. Towards the end of that. No. I was just in agreement with Levon there about Derek White. It reminds me of when the Knicks played Indy last season in the playoffs, and like guys like
out of nowhere, TJ McConnell became a goddamn
Ben Neiman and TJ McConnell. Like, if you're put it this way, I always say, to me, my whole thing is always this: basketball is a game of stars, right? If your stars beat my stars, we're good. I can live with the reality of that. But what I can't live with is if your stars play well, my stars play well, and then, Nembhard has 17. How? He averages 8 on the season, and he has that night where he has 17 or 19 points. And I'm like, come on now. Why is this? Like, that's the thing that bothers me. If we lose, we play again, I'm watching the Spurs. If we play again a game against the Spurs and Wemby scores 60, I can live with that because that's how good Wemby is.
Gotcha.
But Devin Vassell having a 35-point night, that's a problem to me. That's a real big issue to me. So
what's going on here?
to Levon's point, and I think Derek White is much better than anybody gave him credit for.
True.
When he went to Boston, like, and nobody thought that was a big deal when he got there, and he's proved
not at all.
But if Peyton Pritchard, that's the other thing. Peyton Pritchard will have 9 points. He'll finish the game with 9 points. But every single one of those threes that he hits is the dagger, right? It's the dagger.
It kills the run.
Down 4.
It extends the lead.
With 3.5 minutes left, he hit it. You're down 7.
Yeah.
And you're like, son of a...
That's it. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's like you cut it to 3 after it was 11. You cut it to 3, and Pritchard hits the 3. It's back to 6.
Yes.
And then a steal, and then a fast break point by Derek White, and it's 8 again. Timeout, Knicks. That type of shit is what drives me up a wall. And that's what Boston does.
Yep.
Every time we seem to play them, and every time I watch them, that's what they seem to do. And
they're good at ending runs that way. Okay.
Yeah. They're good at stopping the bleeding.
Well, speaking of the Celtics, they're playing the Pelicans tomorrow in New Orleans. New Orleans is 12-36. The Celtics are 33-15. They are favored by 10.5 points. Expected to win by 11 points on the road. Zion is expected to play. When Zion is playing, he's averaging 23, 5 assists, and 8 rebounds, which is pretty amazing because he's leading the team in points and rebounds. And DeJounte Murray is healthy, and he's averaging 17, 7.5 assists, and 6.5 rebounds a game. Jason Tatum is leading the Celtics in points, rebounds, and assists on the year. I don't know how good that is in terms of assists, but I am taking the Pelicans at home. I think 11 points is too many, and I think they're going to surprise the Celtics and keep this much closer than we think. Malik, who do you got?
The Celtics have not been playing great these last few games. They've I can't remember what their record is over the last few games, but I know that they have not been playing
over the last. They're 6-4. Last 10.
6-4 in the last 10.
Yeah.
But New Orleans is, in my opinion, clearly the most disappointing team of the season thus far. At 12-36, 19-28 against the spread, they have been every bit as awful as that record indicates. And the reason why I say that they're so disappointing is because they made the trade for DeJounte Murray in order to safeguard them against losing Zion. Right? It's if Zion goes down, we're okay because we have DeJounte, because we have Trey Murphy Jr., because we have CJ McCollum, because we have all these guys, we'll be able to weather the storm if Zion were to miss games, because we expect him to miss games because he always misses games. And they completely imploded once he went down. So because of that reason, I'll take Boston to win the game and get right against the Pelicans. It's a slight lean. This wouldn't be a best bet for me, but I think Boston is clearly the better team, and New Orleans has shown me nothing to believe that they can bounce back in this situation.
All right. Levon, who do you got?
I agree with Malik and you. I think Boston wins this game. Whether or not 11 is too many points. The Pelicans are bad. They won 50 games last year. A lot of people probably don't know that. Even last year, people probably didn't know that. It would shock them to hear it, especially this year. But they won 50 games last year, and they made it to the playoffs. And this year, they've fallen completely apart. That's a team that probably will reset everything as soon as they get the chance. As soon as offseason hits. So I got Boston to win. I think 11 is about right. They'll probably blow the Pelicans out of the water. So, yeah, I'll take the Celtics in this.
Okay. We got 2 more games for you we're going to pick. We got the Suns and the Warriors, which is the late game on ESPN at 10 p.m. Suns are 24-22, and the Warriors are 24-23. The Warriors are favored by 1.5. Win by 2 in this one for the Warriors, and they cover. Levon, I'm gonna go back to you. Who do you have?
That's too close to really call. The Warriors shocked everybody yesterday by beating OKC. Shocked me because when I turned the game off and went to sleep, OKC was in control. And I figured that was that. But Steph went off, and the Warriors pulled that game out. And that's why you can never count them out, because if Steph goes off, they can beat anybody in the league. But that's what a superstar is. That's what players like him and LeBron and KD can do, even in their twilight years. I'm not impressed by Phoenix. The Bradley Beal's got one foot out the door. There's that whole thing about his no trade clause. Will he waive it? Will he not? I don't know. You said that they don't like Budenholzer now, which is shocking because they didn't like the last coach.
The stars on the team like Budenholzer.
Okay.
Everybody else who's not a star is not a fan of Budenholzer. So everybody who knows what their role is, which would be KD and Booker, feels like, I don't know what's going on. The real issue is the center that they traded for from Portland. He seems to not know where to fit, and it doesn't make sense because his game doesn't really fit with everybody else's, which is why they made a trade for Nick Richards from Charlotte, because they need a center who's not going to take any shots and just play defense and run the floor back. And the dude from Portland, I can't remember his name right now, but it's not working with him, and they need to move him. He makes $18 million a year, so they need to find a spot for him. So I don't know. They're trying to make moves so they can get Jimmy Butler.
They're trying to make moves. I don't know if Jimmy Butler can save him, but it would be more interesting with him over Bradley Beal. I think that fits better with what they have currently. But I like Golden State. I mean, I always go with the proven thing over the dysfunctional one. So I like Golden State to win that game.
I agree with you, and I think because Golden State's at home, they have a better shot at winning. The Suns' defense is atrocious. And I don't know if Draymond is going to come back. He is still listed on the injury report. And Kevon Looney is, well, a better player than Nick Richards. And Nick Richards is going to play significant minutes. So that's going to be a problem for them. I'm trying to look at the player's name. Who's the guy?
This game is getting a little bit.
Nurkic is the one that they basically moved to the bench who's not going to play. And their backup center is Mason Plumlee. And their starting point guard is Tyus Jones. So there's also that. Phoenix is a team that has great starters and no depth. And the Warriors have much better depth, and if Steph goes off, then he can carry it. So it's really going to be, am I betting on Steph or am I betting on KD? And I'm betting on Steph at home. Go ahead, Malik.
I think Steph Curry. I think the Golden State Warriors, they won't admit this. I think the Golden State Warriors need to trade Jonathan Kuminga. There is an intentionality of this team. If you watch, I've watched a good handful of their games. There's an intentionality of this team when Jonathan Kuminga plays to involve him like almost at
he's
the
detriment. Future.
Right, because he's the future, and it comes at the detriment of Steph Curry, who is he's willing to defer. Like, it's not his personality to take over, but he still has the ability to take over. And when you give him the freedom to take over, because he has to take over, he takes over. That's what he does. He's not playing, meaning Kuminga is not playing in this game. He's still out. Likely Draymond Green is out. I heard that I think during the telecast yesterday, they said he was likely to come back Saturday. He's going to be practicing with the team and to come back on Saturday. I don't think Draymond Green being out has any ill effect on in or out. I don't think he has his presence has any real ill effect on the team's ability to score.
He's got to be there to yell KD on the side.
But I do think that Kuminga being out means Steph is a little bit more unlocked. And as a result of that, I think he's able to, at home, I think he's able to will this team to get beyond a Phoenix team, who, like you said, Ace, they don't defend anything well at all. And it's surprising because it's, defense is about effort. You expect, the best teams and the best players on your team to give the relative effort necessary to be solid defensively, and they're not even a little bit. So, I like Golden State here as well. And the point spread is small enough that, a last second three or something like that can end the game. And I just think that that's likely where it trends. So I'll take the Warriors as well.
All right. So there's one game left that I would want to talk about, but I'm going to give you all the choice. Would you rather pick the winner between the Mavericks and the Pistons, who are both still chasing playoff spots? Or would you rather pick a game between the Bucks and the Spurs?
I would prefer Bucks Spurs. I just think it's a more interesting game.
All right.
I think Mavs Pistons is an interesting.
They're playing in San Antonio.
Yeah,
and San Antonio is getting 3.5.
It's an interesting basketball game. I don't think it's an interesting betting game, personally. Because
Luka's still out, but Cade Cunningham is playing.
Cade Cunningham's an all-star. Congratulations to him.
Yeah, as well he should be.
Luka's out. The Mavs are still a banged up team. And so I think it's an interesting basketball game, Kyrie, and there's still names there to watch, and the Pistons are an interesting team. But I think from a betting perspective, the Milwaukee-San Antonio one is probably the better play.
Right.
So
Milwaukee is favored on the road by 3.5. The Spurs are at home. The over/under is 231. I don't see any injuries listed for the Bucks or the Spurs. So Malik, I will let you start with this game, with your first game.
Oh, we walked.
Yeah. I don't. It's a hot take. I don't like Victor Wembanyama's game. I don't like his game. I really don't. It's
not fun to watch him play.
It's really not. And partially because maybe I feel like it's a little bit cheap, but partially because I feel like it's a little cheap, but he doesn't wow me. He's so small, he's so skinny. And I say this to say because I think that he's a better player than Giannis, like talent-wise.
What?
But I think he's more talented than Giannis because he's a better shooter already than Giannis, and he's a better shooter than Giannis will likely ever be. Okay. But I think he's a more talented player than Giannis, but he's not better than Giannis. And Giannis is still, next to next to Jokic. He's probably still the most dominant, big in the game. And so the fact that they're three, it looks like they're 3.5 point favorites. I'm sorry, Milwaukee's -3 in this game, -3.5. I'll pick them to win this game because in the battle of the bigs, I think that Giannis is able to take control of the situation, even though I think that at his best, Wemby should be able to play toe-to-toe with him because of all of the skill sets all the skills that he absolutely has. So I'll take the Bucks. They're still healthy. Middleton's got an ankle, but he looks like he's going to play. So I'll take the Bucks to win this game on the road.
Levon.
Am I muted? Sorry.
No, we can hear you. Loud and clear.
That's an interesting take. At first, I was flabbergasted by it, but then when I really thought about it, better shooter, Wemby. Defensively, a better player already, Wemby. With his blocks, because he blocks a lot. But I will not say more skilled. I think Giannis's game right now, when skill is more than just categories, shooting, blocks, passing. I mean, that's true, but I think when I think skill, I think refinement. The refinement of one's game. And when I look at Wemby, I still see a very raw player who is getting by on his raw talent. Doesn't have much skill in his game. He's really good because he's really tall and he's really long. That is why he's good. That he can dunk the ball pretty much flat-footed. He can shoot over anybody because he's taller than them. grabs rebounds, and he blocks everybody's shot because he's taller than them. But Giannis, even though he's big, he's still skilled in what he does. Downhill, he's probably the most surest bet in the NBA. LeBron is probably close second. Josh Hart is up there, what he does. But when Giannis goes downhill, going to the basket, touch around the basket, trying to finish, he's like, nobody is better than him at doing that. That takes skill. He's a terrible shooter. This is very true. But he's a good rim protector. You know, he gets from one side of the paint to the other. Solid defender. I just don't know. That's interesting. It still got me thinking. But anyway, with that being said, I truly believe that this is a close game. The Spurs get up for whichever opponent they play, which is the testament of a truly bad team. They don't play consistently to their style of basketball every night. They play to whoever their opponent is every night. And I think if they play to the Bucks at home, I think the Spurs will beat them. I think the Spurs will win that game because the Bucks right now are not playing their best basketball. They lost to Portland the other night in Dame's return to Portland. Right. They lost.
Portland got their get back.
Yeah, and it's like...
They lost last year, too.
Yeah, they lost last year in Portland, but it's like the Bucks, they did climb out of that early hole they built, but they're still not playing to the potential of what you expected Dame and Giannis to be, surrounded by Portis and I'm drawing a blank. And Lopez and those other guys. So I think San Antonio plays up to their opponent, and Milwaukee finds a way to let down. And I like the Spurs to win the game. But that is interesting. Giannis versus Wemby. Who is more skilled? That is interesting.
The last time the Spurs played, they got blown out by the Clippers. And that was one of Kawhi's first games back. If Chris Middleton can play and he can play well, I think he can outplay Harrison Barnes. And I think that will be the difference. So I'm going to lean towards the Bucks. I expect Wemby to get like 30, 40 points, and Giannis is probably going to match it. It's whether or not, I expect Dame to also get his act. He's averaging about 26. So he's going to be able to outscore Chris Paul. Chris Paul can't foul him enough or grab enough, so it's not really going to make that much of a difference. So I got to lean towards the Bucks here. I'm leaning towards the over. I expect a lot of points to be scored because whenever Giannis has to deal with Wemby or anybody who's just a little bit taller at his height, it does give him some problems. And it'll keep him out of the paint a little bit more. And I think that'll help. I think that'll help the Spurs keep it close, but it's going to turn into a shootout because they're going to stretch the floor with Dame and pull Chris Paul as far away from the paint so that he's not in passing lanes and getting his hands up, things like that. He's going to try to control the pace, but the Bucks can run a lot more than the Spurs can, especially when Chris Paul's trying to play 28 minutes a game. So I think that's really the downfall. It's like you got a 39-year-old point guard and no real backup. And when he's on the floor, their offense kind of stands around. So that's really what the Spurs' biggest problem. They get De'Aaron Fox. They're the 4 seed in the West. Like they're pushing Denver. Like they're that good. So I hope they can make that happen because the Kings are bad and the Spurs are bad. So you shouldn't have 2 bad teams. You should have 1 bad team and 1 good team. Move him to the good team. I'd rather watch that than light the damn beam again. And that is it for us this week. Levon, you got any shout outs?
I do actually. I have a shout out. I want to shout out Saquon Barkley.
Oh shit.
I want to shout out Saquon Barkley because I remember when I told everybody that I thought Saquon Barkley was the best running back in football. And I said this around 2019, 2020, 2021. And I told people that 26 was the best running back in football. And I got pushback. I got a lot of pushback at the time because of Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, especially Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey, who had just left the Panthers and went to the Niners, is getting all this love because he was playing on a good team and he was catching passes. And Christian McCaffrey's got better hands. Christian McCaffrey is faster. Christian McCaffrey doesn't get negative runs. All the things that Saquon Barkley was doing for my New York Giants. But I was still telling people he's the best running back in football. No, Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's got more yards. He scores touchdowns, no negative runs. Derrick Henry. I kept telling everybody. But no one wanted to listen because he was injured. He got injured a lot. He was getting tackled behind the line of scrimmage. His stats weren't there. So he stayed on the team, and now he gets a chance to be what I said he could be. And now everybody stop talking about Christian McCaffrey. 49ers are not in the playoffs. Christian McCaffrey is nowhere to be seen. No one will say or even breathe a word that Christian McCaffrey is even in the same stratosphere as Saquon Barkley. Nick Chubb, injured. Cleveland, nowhere to be seen. No one in their right mind would ever say Nick Chubb is better than Saquon Barkley. What has changed between 2019, 2020, 2021?
Nick Chubb tore his Achilles.
Hold on, it's my shout out.
I'm sorry, no, he tore his ACL, PCL, MCL.
I'm getting there. What's changed with 26, who I always believe was the best running back in football, and I said it, and I'm on record of saying it. Let me see what's changed. Well, the Giants decided that, they weren't going to pay him. Why? Because he was injured, because Christian McCaffrey, because Nick Chubb. What everybody was saying. They said, no, we can't pay you, offer you this money. You don't want it. And he bet on himself. Shout out to that man. He bet on himself. He signed with a team, one of the best offensive lines in football, 2 threats on the outside, can't have 8 in the box. And now he averages 3.8 yards after scrimmage before he is even touched. That is almost 4 yards of gains after the line of scrimmage before a defender even touches him. And guess what? He's jumping over guys backwards. He's going on 80 and 60-yard touchdown runs. And everyone wants to say that Saquon Barkley is the best running back in football. What's the difference? I have no idea. I'll let you guys think about that because I'm not smart enough to figure it out. But I want to give Saquon his flowers because no one saw this talent level. Not the team that drafted him second overall, not me, not a bunch of other people who root for the red, white, and blue. But kudos to him. And that's my shout out. Thank you.
I'd like to take this time to air some grievances that were aired on last week's show during Levon's shout out. And I'd like to point out that Shedeur Sanders has not practiced, not thrown, not done anything at the Senior Bowl. So I stand correctly, not correctly. I stand correctly. And I accept your apology, Levon. And you don't have to say it. I accept your apology. Because that's exactly what me and Malik said he would do. Because there's no benefit to him throwing. There's no benefit to him playing. He's already put up 24 games of good tape. So why do any more? They know what kind of game he plays. And maybe with a better offensive line, he won't hold onto the ball as much as he did in college. He'll get the ball out. And I should be able to run an NFL offense. And you should be happy for that because it looks like he's probably going to be a quarterback. It's looking like it's going to be Shedeur. Because you're not going to get the first overall pick. I'd root for him more than Jalen Miller. That's for sure. Because that last game I saw him play. Good guy. He kept giving the ball away. So I don't know what it's going to be, but better hope it's Shedeur. I'd like to shout out to the Atlanta Dream for actually trying to get good, getting Brittany Griner. That was a huge trade that they pulled off. I follow the WNBA, and they're making it interesting. Jewel Lloyd is going to the Aces, which makes them an even better team than they were.
Ridiculous.
Which feels almost illegal. The league can't expand quick enough. There's so much talent concentrated on so many teams. It feels like we're watching the NBA in the 1960s where there's like 20 good players and they're all essentially on 4 teams. I feel bad for Arike Ogunbowale because she's the best offensive player in the league, but she is stuck on the Dallas Wings with no help. She has no help whatsoever. She's going to be scoring 30 points a game and like they're going to play 40 games. She's going to win like 12. So it's decent. But yeah, there's that. So I'm looking forward to that. I haven't even been watching a rival, which is kind of cool because they're having them play 3-on-3 full court basketball, which is low key insane, but I like it. But yeah, those are my shout outs. Go ahead, Malik.
Shout out to all of the first time NBA All-Stars this season. Victor Wembanyama, Alperen Sengun. I think Jalen Williams, this is his first as well. And then on the East side, we've got Cade Cunningham, Darius Garland. Did Darius Garland make it? No, and Tyler Hero. Sorry, not Tyler Hero and Evan Mobley. Sorry, Darius Garland.
Tyler Hero does not deserve to be on that team.
I thought that too, but when I look at his numbers, he's averaging 24, 5, and 5, and he's shooting 47% from the field.
How many wins? How many wins does he have?
Look, it's not about wins. This is All-Star game. This is not about wins. This is about players, and he's
played put Zion out there. Then
look at those. Zion hasn't played. I don't even know if Zion would be eligible. But anyhow, this is my shout out. Mute yourself, please. This is my shout. No, shout out to these guys because, if nothing else, the NBA tends to turn around the same players all the time. I think one of the main reasons why I think the NBA All-Star game, loses its luster is because the same players get in every year. And eventually you get tired of watching the same guys play. I think you add new players, you get some new juice in there, and maybe you get some competition, some guys that actually want to be out there and want to play hard. Because for these guys, for the Cade Cunninghams, for the Tyler Heroes, like this may be their only shot. So go ahead and play hard. Do we put all the
old guys on one team?
No, I don't do that either.
This year?
I don't do that either.
Because this year there's 4 separate teams. Okay.
You mean all of the veteran All-Stars?
Yeah, all the old guys, all the guys that are like 33 and up that are on the All-Stars.
No, I would like. So this has not come out as a this is just me, was something I thought about. This has not come out as a suggestion that would heat up the competition of the All-Star game, but I think you should have a team of All-Stars, and they should play against the team of the snubs, the team of guys who didn't make the team, because that to me, that's competition. If I'm a snub, if I'm Trae Young, I'm going out there trying to light these bastards up. I'm going to go out there trying to, think about a team of, Trae Young, LaMelo Ball, Devin Booker, Kyrie Irving, Tyrese Maxey, Sabonis, Domantas Sabonis.
Zion.
Like, you put together a team of the snubs and have them play a team of the All-Stars, I think you'd get a damn competitive game because, those guys are playing for reputation. But shout out to the first-timers. Hopefully this is a better game, better format. Adam Silver keeps messing with the format, keeps tinkering with things. I just heard a couple of days ago, he said he's in favor of shortening the games to 40 minutes instead of 48 minutes. He's in favor of doing that. It's just ridiculous. Shout out to LSU's women's basketball team. They are once again in the mix to be one of the best teams in the country. 22-1. That was a tough loss against South Carolina last weekend. And but they're 22-1. They're the seventh team in the country. And as we trend into the March Madness, I'm rolling with them again to come out of their bracket. Hopefully they're not in the same bracket as South Carolina, and we get another compelling finals or semifinals because there's no Caitlin Clark now this year, so there's no reason.
Not worried about UConn?
I am. Paige Beckers is really good. I am worried about UConn, but not worried enough. That's why I said if they're not on the same bracket as South Carolina and UConn, I think we could have a really, really interesting Final Four in the women's side of things. So shout out to them for maintaining, because everybody believed that the loss of Angel Reese and a couple of the transfers that left last year would, really hurt the team, and it really hasn't. And last but not least, shout out to Detroit Lions fans. The Lions made some signings over the course of the week. They promoted Kelvin Shepard from his role as a linebackers coach to defensive coordinator, and they brought back John Morton, who was offensive pass game coordinator in Denver, brought him in to be the new OC, and they've made some other hirings. David Shaw from the University of Stanford is coming onto the roster, the team as well. So there's a lot of big things happening just over the course of the team, but the fans have been great because as you watch your fans, you pay attention to some of the things that have been said. Last week, Ace, you'll be happy to hear this. Last week, I talked about the head coach of your team and about how the fans were adamantly, avoiding saying his name. He was being called, the coach of the Chicago Bears. That's basically how the fans were calling him. They were not saying him by name. This week, we've got some new nicknames for him. 2 new nicknames for him that have come up, which I absolutely love. So there's Benedict Johnson, which everybody loves. But my personal favorite is Osama Ben Johnson. That one is I am rolling with that one for the remainder of the 2025 season. I heard a fan call him Osama Ben Johnson, and that shit stuck with me forever. It is amazing. He is enemy number 1, and God. I am happy about this because I feel like the Lions may very well get their first real rival, and I always thought it would be the Packers. I always thought it would be the Packers because the Packers were the toast of the town in the NFC North, and it had always been that. And it looked like they were trending in that direction with Jordan Love and so on and so forth. But it's going to be the Bears. It's going to be the Bears. And this Ben Johnson move is the trigger. There was a little bit of respect and love for Caleb Williams and a little bit of respect for the Bears just in general, and a little bit of like, we don't care about the Bears because they haven't been very good for a very long time. But this Ben Johnson thing has really taken it to the max. And to me, to call that man by the name of Osama Ben Johnson, that is the key to the cake. So I can't wait for next season now because the amount of hate that he's going to get is going to be pretty interesting. So that's it for me.
That is a wild nickname. That is a wild thing to call another team's opposing coach. I don't know if I like it or not. I don't know if I even. It's funny. It is funny. It's wildly
hilarious, man.
That is what makes it funny to me too. That is what makes it funny.
It's so disrespectful that it's hilarious.
It's so out of pocket. It's so out of left field. Like, what are you really trying to say here? But it's like, I get what you're trying to say. Like, he's traitorous is what you're trying to call him. Trying to call the man a traitor. He's attacking everything.
It calls him a traitor. Benedict Johnson is the traitor. Osama Ben Johnson is a terrorist. Okay, it's
it's another level of Look, all right, I'm not even gonna go there. I'm not gonna mess up this. Whatever. It is what it is. Y'all have your little feuds. Be mad if you want. You got your coach. We out. Bear down.
Peace.